Am I the a-hole for leaving my girlfriend at a wedding after she told the bride I used to have a crush on her? I, 27 male, was invited to a friend's wedding last weekend, not someone I talked to every day, but we were close back in college and stayed in touch. The bride and I had a flirty friendship back in the day. Nothing ever happened, but I did used to have a bit of a crush on her. Early in my relationship with my girlfriend, 26 female, I mentioned that in passing, just one of those, haha yeah, college was messy, conversations. The wedding itself was great. My girlfriend and I got dressed up, had a couple drinks, danced a little. At some point I noticed her and the bride talking by the bar. They were smiling, laughing. Nothing seemed off, up until the bride started acting really weird around me, like distant, uncomfortable. Later, one of the bridesmaids, who I also know, pulls me aside and goes, "Hey, just so you know, your girlfriend told the bride you used to be in love with her, and that she should watch herself tonight." I honestly didn't know what to say. I confronted my girlfriend about it, and she didn't deny it. She said, "I didn't want to cause drama, but I thought she deserved to know the history." I told her there was no history, and even if there had been, saying something like that at someone else's wedding was completely out of line. She got super defensive, said I was blowing it out of proportion and caring more about the bride's feelings than hers. I told her I was embarrassed, hurt, and honestly kind of shocked by how casually she'd tried to stir the pot at someone else's wedding. She ended up dismissing everything I said, told me to get over it and stop making a scene. So I said F it and left. I got in the car and drove home without her. I figured she'd find a way back with one of her friends. She knew several people there. She eventually did, but now she's saying I abandoned her, and a couple of her friends are messaging me saying I humiliated her, and I'm an awful person for just leaving without her. I don't feel like I was wrong to walk away, but I was just super upset, and I'm starting to think the way I handled it was a bit over the top. Am I the a-hole for reporting my friend to the university after he cheated using my notes? I, 22 male, I'm in med school and have this friend, let's call him Jake. We've studied together a few times, and I shared my annotated notes with him before a big exam. I made them myself, with diagrams, explanations, and even some mnemonics I came up with. A few weeks later, one of our professors used one of my made-up mnemonics in a lecture, crediting an anonymous student. I was confused. Turns out Jake had submitted my notes, with his name on them, to the prof's student tips portal, where students can share study tips for extra credit. He didn't even mention me. I confronted him, he brushed it off, and said, "It's just notes. Chill." So I reported it to the Academic Honesty Office, since it technically falls under plagiarism. Now he's under investigation and might lose the extra credit, or worse. Our mutual friends are calling me petty and saying I could have just talked to him. Am I the a-hole?
Am I the a-hole for explaining to my future sister-in-law why her kids will never receive anything from us? I, 27 female, have a brother, 33 male, who has been dating his girlfriend Sarah for 2 years and he proposed a couple of months ago. Sarah has 2 kids from her previous relationship, 8 male and 6 female. I would say that my parents and I are not very close to Sarah and her kids, but we are cordial and never had any problems before. My partner, bro and Sarah attended the Easter dinner at my parents' and that's when the drama happened. Sarah's kids were at their father's, so Sarah used this celebration to confront us about my brother requesting a prenup. Basically, my brother explained to her that he expects them to sign a prenup and that only his biological kids will have the right to inherit anything from our family assets. This is something that we as a family discussed before, and we all agree that only our children should receive assets or money from our inheritance. My brother is free to pay whatever he wants for his stepchildren out of his own money, but my children and his bio children will never have to share anything that our family has with them. Sarah claimed that we are being unfair and that we are treating her and her kids like some strangers instead of embracing them like family. She said that the normal and decent thing to do was for us to see her kids like my brother's kids, who should have equal rights to any children they may have together. I told her sure, after she gets married to my brother she will become our in-law and her kids will be my brother's stepchildren, but this does not mean we have to share anything with them. I asked her, will my future kids receive anything from her parents or from their bio father's parents? She said no, obviously, so I asked her then why would her kids be entitled to receive anything from us? Sarah said because they will be our family, so I told her that we have plenty of cousins that are also family, but I don't go around wishing to share my inheritance with them. There was a lot more back and forth between us and Sarah was not letting this go. My brother asked her to stop because we were there to celebrate Easter, not to have this kind of conversation, but she kept on going, saying we need to clarify it once and for all. I told her from where we stand everything is clear and it is only her who has a problem. She said we are greedy and cruel to some kids and I snapped. I told her to deal with it. She is free to work her ass off and gather assets to leave to her children, but we will never divide anything outside of our family, and she should not expect her children to be our problem or burden to finance. I honestly feel she is very manipulative and is using my brother for what she and her kids can get from him, but that's my brother's problem to decide if this is the kind of partner he wants. I just want to know if I was too blunt in telling her the truth. To clarify things, we don't dislike her kids or consider them second-class citizens. Even now when they don't have bio kids together, of course we give the kids gifts for their birthdays, Christmas, etc. And we said he is free to spend his share however he wants out of his portion of any inheritance. A prenup is also protecting him from Sarah taking advantage of him. Staying married until our parents pass and he gets his inheritance, then divorcing him and taking half of his assets.